Good evening, Councillor Santos checking in. I'm on my way in person, but we'll be there in about 10 minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Santos.
Welcome everybody to the Planning and Development Committee meeting. Today is Monday, April 22nd. I will do a roll call. Deputy Mayor Singh. Councillor Santos.
Present.
Councillor Vincente.
Present.
Councillor Brar.
Present.
Councillor Keenan. Councillor Medeiros.
Present.
Councillor Fortini.
Present.
Councillor Tour.
Present.
Councillor Power. Deputy Mayor Singh is present. We'll try Councillor Keenan again. Not online. I'll move to the approval of the agenda, and just for members to know that we've had a few requests that the e-scooter pilot program 7.3, 7.4, and 6.1, that's the presentation, the report, and the delegations, be referred to the May 1st meeting. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, it's been moved by Councillor Vicente that be referred. And the approval of the agenda, if anybody would like to add, remove, delete. But I have two additional items. One additional item is a request by staff on Bill 185. Bill 1 something, rather. That's a discussion item with a report. I will be adding a discussion item on the Brampton Plan OP and with correspondence on that one and an amendment for discussion. Were those the additions?
Yep, so through you, Chair Peleshi, item 7.5 will be the staff presentation regarding Bill 185. Item 7.6 will be the staff report regarding Bill 185. Item 9.1 will be the discussion item at your request regarding an amendment for the Brampton official plan. And item 11.7 will be the correspondence regarding the Brampton official plan.
Got it.
Quick question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councillor.
Thank you. Is there a reason why the e-scooter pilot program is being referred to me first?
Just because of some requests by members that were looking to have this referred there, and then we have our transportation master plan to be approved today, and then the minutes go to council on May 1st, and then we'll have ratification of both then.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Santos, you'll move the approval of the agenda?
Okay.
All in favor? That carries. Declarations of conflict of interest. Are there any members that would like to declare a conflict of interest? Seeing none, none online. Our consent motion. The only thing that'll be going into consent will be some of the correspondence. It'll be, actually none of them, because we have delegations on all of them, I think. So we'll leave that. There's no consent. Our first item is our statutory public meeting. And I'd like to, there is no consent. No consent. Statutory public meeting. Is there any members in the audience today that would like to hear a staff presentation on the application to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw mainline planning on behalf of 7835 Mississauga Road Holding Inc., 7835 Mississauga Road 6? Any public in the audience today that would like to hear a staff presentation on this item? This item and those delegations are adjourned. Item 5.2, staff presentation application. We have a delegation on this item? Or is it correspondence? I apologize. 6.2, they're both, are they both the applicants? Claudio Bruto.
Through you, Chair Peleshi, item 1 is not the applicant.
Item 1 from Castlebrook is, okay, so Jennifer Evolo from Castlebrook is here? Yes?
Good evening, committee.
Evening, Jennifer. You'd like to hear a presentation on this item?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have staff presentation application to amend the zoning bylaw, Bruto Consulting on behalf of Samir Dalal, Royal Laser 11176, Highway 50, Ward 10. We have Harjot. No, we don't. Yes, we do. Hi, Harjot. Come on around here. Welcome. How are you? Good, good.
All right. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, members of the public, and city colleagues. My name is Harjot Sra, and I'm the planner assigned to the process and review the subject application. The purpose of this public meeting is to provide information to the public and seek feedback on the application filed by Bruto Consultants on behalf of Highway 50 Business Park Limited. Next slide, please. The subject property is located in Ward 10 at 11176 Highway 50. The site is located east of Highway 50 and north of Countryside Drive. Next slide, please. This map shows an overview of the subject site within the property and surrounding land uses. To the north, we have a focused analysis area for Highway 413. To the south, there's a similar site where a temporary zoning bylaw amendment for the purposes of truck and trailer parking has been approved, which is also within the focus analysis area for Highway 413. To the east, we have two truck parking lots and an outdoor storage container lot, which is also within the focus analysis area for Highway 413. And to the west is the Vaughan and Brampton border. As the property is located within the focused analysis area of Highway 413, an approval from the MTO is required for this proposal to proceed. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. This slide shows an aerial photo of the site. The site has an existing access to Highway 50. The site is approximately 170 meters north of the intersection of Countryside Drive and Highway 50. The site currently contains an existing single detached dwelling and farmhouse structure, although majority of the site is currently unoccupied. Next slide, please. The following slides showed the site visit conducted. This view is looking north at Countryside Drive. Next slide, please. This is a view looking east from Highway 50. Next slide, please. The applicant has submitted an application to amend the zoning bylaw to permit the site development of 24.88 acres with 412 temporary truck and trailer storage and parking spots. The applicant intends to keep the existing structures on site, although there are plans to add a 5-meter landscape strip to the south and north lot lines, as well as a 15-meter landscape strip to the rear of the side for added screening and landscaping from adjacent uses. A stormwater management pond is also proposed alongside a 2.4-meter high berm near the Highway 50 frontage. Next slide, please. Prior to finalizing recommendations to Council, this application will be further evaluated for consistency with compliance with the Planning Act as amended, consistency with the provincial policy statement, and conformity with the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe as amended, and conformity to the in effect Region of Peel official plan, the City of Brampton official plan, as well as the Highway 427 industrial secondary plan. Next slide, please. The subject site is proposed. The subject site for the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is designated industrial and special policy area, which permits a wide range of industrial uses and office uses. The proposed development does not require an official plan amendment, although the applicant is seeking a temporary use zoning bylaw, which is permitted under Section 5.10 of the official plan for a period of no more than 3 years. Temporary use bylaws may be passed without amending the subplan, provided the development does not require the extensive construction of permanent buildings or structures or the significant alteration of land to accommodate the temporary uses, as per Section 5.10.3. Next slide, please. On November 1st, 2023, Brampton Council adopted the City of Brampton's new official plan, Brampton Plan. The official plan provides clear direction and principles to guide city building, attaining its vision for the future and support the city to become a vibrant urban city of over 1 million people by 2051. The council adopted official plan is currently with the region for review and approval, as the region remains the approval authority for the local official plan amendments. The subject site for the proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendment is designated mixed-use employment and natural heritage system within Schedule 2, designations of the Brampton Plan. Next slide, please. The lands are within the Highway 427 Industrial Secondary Plan and are designated as Prestige Industrial Special Policy Area and Corridor Protection Area. An amendment to the secondary plan is not required given the temporary nature of the proposal and the policies associated with Section 5.10.3 of the official plan, as previously noted. Next slide, please. The lands are zoned agricultural. The agricultural designation permits single detached dwellings and other accessory uses. An amendment to the zoning bylaw is required to facilitate the temporary use of truck and trailer parking and storage. As per the city's temporary use bylaws in the official plan, the use shall be permitted on a temporary basis for a period of no more than 3 years. A site plan application will also be required in the future. Next slide, please. The applicant proposes to amend the zoning bylaw to permit the temporary use of truck and trailer storage for a period of no more than 3 years. A draft bylaw has been included as part of the submission for the city's review, which includes minimum landscape open areas, minimum rear, front, and side yard setbacks, and regulating the total number of truck and trailer parking spaces to be permitted on site for a temporary basis. A summary of the regulations are included on screen. Next slide, please. At this time, preliminary issues and considerations that will need to be addressed include a portion of the subject property is located with the Highway 413 Corridor Protection Area and requires approval from the MTO for temporary uses. The city requires a satisfactory traffic impact study to assess the traffic impacts on Highway 50, which is a regional road. And appropriate truck screening and landscaping is required to screen the storage of trucks and trailers from public viewing. These issues and others that are raised will be addressed in a future recommendation report. Next slide, please. Staff is hosting a statutory public meeting this evening to share information of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment on the subject lands and to provide an opportunity for members of the public to express comments, perspectives, and opinions. Staff will continue to review the applicant's planning rationale and supporting plans, drawings, and technical comments, and staff will advance a final recommendation report for council in the future based on the details of the proposed development, applicable planning laws policies, while incorporating comments and considerations from community members, technical reviewers, and other stakeholders. Staff will also follow up with members of the public and other stakeholders who have spoken, written in, or advised of interest in monitoring this proposal. Next slide, please. For more information on the development proposal, the applicant's submission materials, including architectural plans, drawings, and supporting studies, are publicly accessible through the city's Brand Plan online portal. You may type in the file number on the application in the required field, which in this case is OZS-2023-0042. This brings up the file page where by clicking the File Info tab, you will be allowed to view all drawings and documents associated with this development application. Next slide, please. This public meeting presentation will be available online as part of the Planning and Development Committee meeting minutes shortly. The final recommendation report will be posted on the city's PDC meeting agenda in advance of the future meeting. For any questions or comments about this development application, please contact myself, my manager, or the applicant, Francesca Fiorani, who is representing Brito Consultants. The corresponding contact information is seen on the screen. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Harjot. Our next is delegation Jennifer Avolo from Castle Brock and Blackwell LLP on behalf of Mary DiBiase, Brampton resident. Jennifer, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, committee again, and thank you, Ms. Schrock, for the presentation. As stated, my name is Jennifer Avila. I'm an associate at Castle Brock and Blackwell LLP, and we are counsel to Ms. Mary DiBiase. I would like to take the opportunity to direct the committee to our written submissions, which provide in greater detail the concerns of our client, and we'll be providing a summary of those comments, and then would be happy to answer any questions. Our client has lived in the city of Brampton for decades. Her home is approximately 85 meters from the subject property of the development applications received by the city on this item. She has watched as the surrounding area around her property has gone from being relatively rural in characteristic to prestige industrial, a change she generally welcomes. Our client, however, has significant concerns respecting the proposed outdoor parking for 412 trucks. As highlighted in our letter, it is our view that the proposed development does not conform to the city's official plan and Highway 427 secondary plan, which expressly prohibits outdoor storage, including truck trailer parking, as a primary use within the prestige industrial designation. Our client further has concerns that there has been inadequate study of any mitigation measures to sensitive uses, including the existing surrounding residential uses, which includes our client's property, as well as as required by the provincial policy statement, the growth plan, and the city's official plan. This is evident by the absence of any planning opinion provided respecting the PPS and growth plan by the applicant, and the absence of any noise and transportation impact studies being posted to Brand Plan to date. Our client understands this matter is just coming forward to the committee for information this evening. Our request to the committee and to the city is to require the applicant to engage in public consultation with our client and surrounding landowners, and to require the applicant address these concerns as their application is further considered. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I see no questions on the board. Our next delegation is Claudio Bruto from Bruto Consulting on behalf of Highway 50 Business Park. Claudio? Claudio's not in attendance? He is now. Claudio, can you unmute?
Go. Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Hi, Claudio. We can hear you. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of committee, and members of the public and the delegation. We do appreciate the input. I think the presentation that was done by the planner that was responsible for this file has done an excellent job. I do not intend to repeat what she's so well articulated in the presentation. We support the planning staff report. We commend the report to you for further consideration as we move forward. I do note that planning staff have indicated that we do not need an official plan amendment, and we do not require a secondary plan amendment, given the intended use, that it's temporary in nature. We also can advise that the traffic and the noise study are imminent and on their way to the planning staff as we speak. With that being said, I have no further comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your delegation, Claudio. I have Councillor Tour. Nobody's on the board. Councillor Tour, move receipt of the staff presentation, item 5.2, and the delegations number 1 and 2. All in favor? That carries. Our next item is delegation from Joseph Platino. No, that one was done. Delegation from Sylvia Roberts on the correspondence from the Honorable Paul Calandra, Minister, Municipal Affairs. 1, 2, and then Sylvia right into the Transportation Master Plan. Do you want to condense your delegations on the minister's correspondence? Put those into one delegation?
I'll try, but they're on transportation stuff specifically local to the areas.
You have delegations on the next 3 items,
Yes.
so you're up.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so for 11.2 for the Brampton GO Station, we've recently had, just at the last meeting, we've had a bunch of major applications coming to the downtown. And overall, I support the idea of major office to downtown, and it's a suitable location, especially with the GO train that we're improving. And then we have the bus BRT coming, and the provincial government has announced that. But in order to make all of these projects work, in order to deliver stuff like this office project, we have to come up with transportation data to show how we are going to move people. And we also need to have much better public consultation on this. I remember last year for some of the MZOs, I forgot which 2 it was, but 2 of them basically got walked on, and with almost no discussion, we had 2 different MZOs get approved in, I think, 4 minutes, which was, it's not reasonable to have this many projects of this size going forward with this little public consultation. These are not emergency projects, and it's good that the minister has put in rules about how there needs to be public consultation. For the downtown, it's was it 3,000 jobs we wanted? Like, that is a very large impact thing. And so I understand the desire to use an MZO in order to go around the years of process that it would take, but it's just not reasonable to do that. And then with the Emerald Heights MZO, which is the next one, 11.3, there's also major transportation stuff that needs to be factored in. We've recently completed the Bramley Road environmental assessment, and I believe that process is ongoing for getting that done. But I talked to the people on that, and it didn't factor in how Metrolinx is going to vastly increase the amount of train service to Bramley GO Station. I asked them, so the provincial government has announced plans to get 9 trains per hour to this GO Station. Is this being factored in our demand modeling? And they're like, nope, not relevant, which is a concern because a current GO train, a 12-car GO train, moves almost 2,000 people, so 9 vehicles. They're going to be using smaller vehicles, but still we're talking huge amounts. And 6 of those 9 trains are only going as far as Bramley GO. Only 3 are going past Bramley GO. So if we want people in Brampton to have access to that 10-minute headway service from Bramley GO, we have to build a lot of transportation infrastructure, which is good news because it means we can justify it so we can show the provincial government, hey, you want to have this stuff going? We need to build this transportation infrastructure to make your investments pay off. But it also means that residential is not really an appropriate use for this area. If you're going to have that much transit service, that means Office uses drive time analysis, how many people can get to it within 30 minutes, and with that much improved transit, it means in terms of access, it becomes an extremely attractive location for Office because you'll have large population located at Highway 10 and Steele, and then another huge population cluster at Bramley City Center. But we couldn't really talk about this when the MZO went to council because it was just walked on and we did not have any meaningful public participation. So it's good that the minister is putting in rules requiring public consultation for it. There's huge advantages to front-loading a lot of the planning stuff, so doing a master plan for a community and then implementing that, and then everything can go move forward by right, but just suddenly dropping, and so an individual site doesn't need this huge public consultation process. But when we are looking at large sites, we need to make sure that we're doing the front-end work well. Thank you. That's my delegations for the 2 different MZO things and 30 seconds to spare.
Thank you, Sylvia. You want to go right into the active transportation?
Okay, so that's, yes. So for
Take
active,
your time. If you need a drink of water or anything, though, you're not being rushed.
sorry, the Brampton Caledon Health Coalition was doing a protest at Brampton Civic Hospital, and I am the treasurer for that, so I was there. That's how I spent my afternoon. So the active transportation master plan, strongly support it, and my big concern is we're just not doing that much that quickly. We've talked a lot about it, but when I look at how many how much distance got done, when we're looking at actual bike lanes, protected bike lanes, and multi-use paths, over the last 5 years, we have averaged less than 10 kilometers a year. And that's just not fast enough. In some places, things like super sharrows do make sense, but these are fundamentally directional wayfinding things and are very useful navigation for cycles to show that this is an encouraged corridor because the city has done studies and made sure that the traffic volumes aren't too high and we can funnel cyclists on there. And so there's enough cyclists that drivers are looking at them and paying attention, but it doesn't actually protect cyclists. It doesn't make a huge difference. In the places where they were looking at them originally, I think it was Oakland, California, it just did not pan out. They thought they had, this will help, and it just didn't deliver the results. So these help as directional wayfinding, but these should not be counted in the same way as we are counting bike lanes and multi-use paths and stuff. There's other, and so this year we're like, okay, we're going to target 17 kilometers, and that's great, except the majority of that was deferred from last year. So I think that's great, we're going to try to do 17. But if the majority of that was deferred from last year, what specific steps are we taking to make sure we're actually going to get all 17 kilometers? We're very close to it, and we're not going to defer the majority of it and just get slid into 2025. Because as the city intensifies with all these big projects, we do need to build that cycling infrastructure. So it's much easier to convince the developers and people moving into buildings to use that if it's there before they move into it. It's difficult when people have moved into a building, they paid for their car parking spaces, and it's $500 on their mortgage. So I mean, at that point, why not own a car? It's not that much bigger a difference. But if that stuff is there, then they can see that they don't need a car, and so they don't have that parking space, and so there's no place to park that car. Well, there's no incentive to get that car. I'm happy that we have early stuff going on for the Aubry Trail. It's critically important, at least the segment between Williams Parkway and, say, McLaughlin to be done. Past Williams Parkway, there's already a trail it can connect to, and that will offer a great linear corridor. There's other things like Mill Street. We need to be working on having this as a contiguous corridor. It runs all the way from downtown directly to Shoppers World. We're having uptown, and it's a great location for cycling corridor. It's drastically quieter than Main Street. I still see the majority of times when I am driving down Main Street, the majority of the times the cyclists are riding on the sidewalk. It doesn't have a buffer between the grates, between sometimes there's leaves there, between the snow, and the fact that the drivers have zero regard for the bike lanes. They might as well, they're suggestions and don't actually indicate anything to the average driver. These aren't safe infrastructure, and so we can put in green paint, but after that's done, I'm still probably going to see the majority of the cyclists along Main Street South still cycling along there. So that is why Mill Street is important to do as a proper cycling corridor. There's other cartography issues. So when you go to Google Maps, they have a cycling layer, and that's great. However, we've got bike lanes that definitely do exist, but even buffered bike lanes. And then I go check in Google Maps, project that the city says we did in 2019. It's there, so I believe it was done in 2019. And Google Maps on the cycling layer does not think that there's any kind of cycling infrastructure there. So this is probably just a case of planning is attempting to respond to, is it a bill every 3 months from the provincial government? And they just haven't had time. But council needs to make sure they have the resources to do that, because that's important for planning trips for cyclists. Thank you, that's my delegation.
Thank you, Sylvia. We have a question. Councillor Santos.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you, Sylvia, for your delegation on the Active Transportation Master Plan. I'm very happy that you're suggesting that we should build them faster. A couple of questions. You did mention a few comments related to equity, I think, in terms of different types of modes of transportation. Gas prices are up, insurance is up. It's very expensive to have a car these days. What would you say in terms of some of the folks, especially the young people, who sometimes it's riding their bike is their only mode of getting around?
The average person under 30, it's very difficult to attempt to afford a car because, I mean, you're looking at what? If you're under 25, you're probably looking at $500 for insurance. I need a place to park the car. And then your windshield tires, and then the maintenance. And I think from CAA, we're probably looking at $1,000 a month. It's just, how can we afford that? And then you look at the jobs in Brampton, and they're like, yeah, so you'll make less than $40,000 after, and that's before tax. So cycling is an important way. it's, to get that mode shift from cars, we need robust transit infrastructure because the average commute is 9 kilometers. And then especially for the daily needs like going to the store and stuff, bikes are very useful for dealing with those trips that are under 5 kilometers.
And what would you say in terms of, sometimes I get comments from people that they never see people riding the bike lanes and we should just remove the bike lanes altogether.
A lot of it is we're still building out that network, and there's a lot of, we're being opportunistic. We're repaving the roads with easy to put in infrastructure and make sure that makes sense from a financial perspective. But sometimes we need to go in and where we don't have that road resurfacing and putting that in to start connecting those pieces together to make it much more feasible so people can actually cycle. Like the Church Street stuff is very good because it connects it to downtown. And it also connects to Mill Street. So you have an east-west thing and the north-south thing connecting.
And so the young people who actually use the cycling infrastructure, and I'm excited about the Active Transportation Master Plan and the implementation update that's coming for us to look at today, or staff is presenting it, but we passed that plan. I can't even remember how many years ago now. We passed it, we ratified it. So in terms of the plan itself, would you say that, why is the network important? Why is having that network, you were kind of describing it there earlier, but why is the network important, especially for those who can't afford a car or actually just choose to ride a bicycle? Or scooter or micromobility? There's
a lot of roads in Brampton that it's basically, you're playing Russian roulette. I mean, attempting to cycle on steels is an absurd proposition. It's a very effective, if you're suicidal, it's a very effective way to die. But in terms of biking on steels, I've seen a couple vehicular cyclists, but with the amount of cars and the truck traffic, it's just completely unsafe. And so we need a lot of that infrastructure to connect it.
Okay, thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you, Councillor Santos. Thank you for your delegation, Sylvia. It's been moved by Councillor Power.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sylvia, just real quick for you. You've delegated, and thank you for your delegations, you've delegated on a number of topics through many different meetings. Would you say that we've implemented a bike infrastructure fairly well in the city of Brampton?
We started with almost nothing, so we have done a fair amount, and we have a lot of trail infrastructure, which is beneficial. In fact, Bramalea is a place that has an exceptional trail network, and with a few specific improvements, you can make a huge difference. But part of it is getting the bike, and because of how spread out everything is, e-bikes in Brampton make a lot of sense to cut that. So it's easier to travel the distance, but as far as I know, we still haven't updated. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but e-bikes are still banned on trails. And so we can say, well, we don't enforce it, but we should have rules that people can make sense, right? We shouldn't say, well, legally you can't do that, but we know you're gonna do that anyway, we don't have a problem with that. We should just fix the rule, right? And so stuff like that, allowing you to move fast enough to keep up with the traffic, because as someone who drives, it can be very frustrating to be going behind someone cycling at 15 kilometers an hour. But if someone has an e-bike, then the average person is able to go 30 kilometers an hour, and that's much more reasonable and helps fix some of those gaps on the network. But we do need to step up and start moving and making sure that even where it's not as easy, where it's not cheap because we're doing a road resurfacing anyway, we need to start fixing some of those links.
Do you think it's safe and connected well?
In certain specific areas, there's decent connections. Bramalea has the benefit of having shopping plazas embedded within the residential areas, but in a lot of Brampton, it's just not there yet. And at the rate we're going, it's going to be another half decade or more. But if we move from less than 10 to more like 15 or 20, we could see that happen much more rapidly. And we could have, because we have a decent amount of links, and it's getting to the point where we don't need as many links to start connecting them and create a much more detailed network.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you, Councillor Power. Thank you, Sylvia. We started from the bottom, now we're here. Councillor Santos, you'll move delegations 6-4, 6-5, 6-6. All in favor? That carries. We do have the staff report, active transportation master plan. We have the presentation as well. Are there members here that would like to hear the presentation? Yes? Okay.
Good evening, Chairman, committee members, staff colleagues, and residents, or members of the public. My name is Nelson Cadet. I am the city's manager of transportation planning. The intent of this presentation and the accompanying staff report is to provide committee with an update on the implementation of the active transportation master plan. This annual report is delivered each year, summarizing the scope of activities that were implemented in the previous year, and then outlining the proposal of the current year ahead of the construction season. The contents of this report has been shared with the Brampton Active Transportation Advisory Committee and the broader Recycling Committee, and feedback has been incorporated into the 2024 work plan. Next slide, please. In November of 2023, City Council adopted the new official plan, the Brampton Plan, Your Vision, Our Future. The mobility framework outlined in the Brampton Plan establishes a hierarchy for the city to prioritize pedestrians, cyclists, and transits ahead of accommodating private automobiles and good movements in decision-making and investments. Within the plan, one of the three integrated networks that will guide the future investment and decision-making in Brampton is the city's active transportation network. The Active Transportation Network in the Brampton Plan, which is a refined version of the network developed through the ATMP, creates critical local and regional connections using walking, cycling, or rolling, and allows people of all ages and abilities to access destinations, amenities, daily needs, and recreational opportunities, all of which are key elements of 15-minute neighborhoods. The plan states that improving the active transportation network, the city can address many challenges, including motor vehicle congestion, commute times, air quality, transportation costs, lack of connectivity, bicycle safety, and recreational access. Next slide, please. So similar to previous updates, this first map illustrates the progress made in implementing the city's cycling network since it was endorsed in September of 2018. The blue lines represent 78.5 kilometers of linear infrastructure, including bike lanes, recreational trails, multi-use paths, shared roadways, and urban shoulders. Prioritizing implementation of the Active Transportation Master Plan and advancing the proposed active transportation network is a key ingredient to addressing the challenges of access and mobility in a rapidly urbanizing city. Next slide, please. So specific to 2023, this map illustrates the progress made and the infrastructure that was implemented as part of last year's program. The blue lines again represent linear infrastructure along city roads. The red lines represent infrastructure along regional roads. The yellow lines, sidewalks. And then the series of circles represent different spot improvements. So the orange circles are pedestrian crossovers. The blue circles, curb cuts, introduce park paths and walkways. The red circles, new traffic controls. Pink circles are crosswalks that were upgraded to bicycle-friendly crossings. Green circles are new repair stands. And finally, the purple circles are pedestrian and bike counters. A few highlights from the 2023 program. The new north portion of Clairville Recreational Trail that was opened this past fall. 2 repair stations along that trail that include an air pump and a number of tools that are typically used for bike repair or tuning. There's bike lanes that were implemented along 8 different collector roads and improvements to an existing multi-use path along Bouvard between Yellow Brick and Heart Lake Road. Next slide, please. So as a summary, highlights from the 2023 year in review, there was a budget allocation last year of $5 million, 19.2 kilometers of linear infrastructure, including bike lanes, urban shoulders, multi-use paths, and recreational trails were implemented. Again, the 2 bike repair stands, 4 pedestrian cyclist counters along the trail system, new curb depressions at 20 locations, 2 pedestrian crossovers, and 6 traffic control signals. Next slide, please. So shifting gears to what's in store for 2024, through this year's budget cycle, we've allocated $11.9 million toward active transportation infrastructure. So these network elements are budgeted and delivered in partnership with the Planning, Building, and Growth Management, Public Works and Engineering, and Community Services departments. And the totals shown here are actual AT components of those projects. Next slide, please. This map graphically represents the 2024 implementation program. So again, the blue lines represent the linear infrastructure for the most part. All of the linear infrastructure is being delivered through the road resurfacing program, as well as our ongoing infill program, which is really focused on delivering that cycle network. The orange lines represent the protected east-west cycling corridor. Important to note, a section of this was completed last year along Hanover Road, and it gave our maintenance people an opportunity to test a maintenance strategy that was developed to ensure that the facility could be maintained and open all year long. Again, implications of that protected bicycle lane will continue to be monitored and presented to council at a future date. The green lines represent 10.3 kilometers of existing bicycle lanes that will be enhanced with the introduction of green paint at strategic locations. So these bike lanes were originally designed and implemented prior to the recent guidance relating to construction of cycling facilities, which recommend that green surface treatments be used as a traffic control device to increase the visibility of a cycling facility, highlight the areas of conflict, and reinforce the priority to people riding on bikes in conflict areas. Bicycle lanes in the downtown as well as Bramalea are the first phase of that retrofit program. Another important implementation program of the Active Transportation Master Plan is the Fix-It program, which focuses on enhancing the existing network by making improvements to crossings. Examples of this are pedestrian crossings, curb depressions, and traffic control signals. So the circles on the map represent those Fix-It improvements, and they will be delivered through a capital program as well as other maintenance opportunities. So green circles are the 5 new repair stands, pink circles are the crosswalks, upgrades to bicycle-friendly crossings. The red circles are new traffic control signals, and then the blue circles are curb depressions at park and walkways. Next slide, please. So summary of 2024 work plan. There is a budget allocation of approximately $11.9 million. There's going to be a total of 20.3 kilometers of linear infrastructure implemented, curb depressions at 52 locations, 19 new pedestrian crossings, 4 new traffic control signals, and 13 pedestrian and cycling crossings to be implemented along Chinguacousy Road. Next slide, please. So to highlight a few of the program pieces planned for 2024, again, we'll be celebrating Bike Month this year in June. Planned events include a bike festival on May 25th, which will be the kickoff for Bike Month, and that'll take place in Chinguacousy Park. Bike to Work Week is happening between June 17th and 21st. In addition to hosting a corporate Bike to Work Day event that week, the city has also partnered with the TRCA to encourage and support other Brampton businesses to create, to celebrate cycling and create their own Bike to Work Day events. Bike to Creek is taking place on June 8th this year, and we'll be celebrating its 10th year running. This will be the second year of our electric scooter pilot program, which starts in May, and the city again will be supporting our national bike count. Next slide, please. So similar to previous years, staff will ensure that appropriate communication plan is executed to ensure that all residents are affected by these projects are advised of the direct impacts and the overall benefits of walking and cycling under the branding of Streets for People. There is a list of detailed projects provided in the appendices of the report if you are interested in the projects planned for your respective ward. And we anticipate providing updates throughout the year at our ward pairing meetings. We hope this has been informative, and thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Are there any questions by members of committee? Oh, I've done something to the thing now.
Mr. Chair.
Councillor Tour.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I couldn't see somebody was speaking before me. I just want to quickly say thank you for that presentation. Also, just a question on, I may have missed this part, but on the second year of the scooter pilot program, when is that due to start?
Thank you. Through the chair, our anticipated start date would be after we deliver to council. I believe May 1st is the date. So we anticipate the program starting after that date.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tour. Councillor Power.
Thank you, and through the chair, thanks for the presentation, Nelson. When we talk about communication, what type of communication are we talking about for residents?
So typically, and I have it sort of listed out, it's contained within the report. Typically, we work with our friends in corporate communications, and recently we've had project lists on our webpage. We populate our interactive construction map online. We provide information toolkits and distribute to members of council and senior management team. Construction notice type signage are typically erected locally. And then other initiatives. For example, this past year, in June, we prepared a tax bill insert under the branding of Streets for People and circulated that to over 180,000 homes. Last year, we also created a brochure, and we distributed at Earth Day and other public engagement events. I think that sums it up. Oh, in social media in the past, we've used a bunch of social media campaigns, again, under that branding of Streets for People.
Have we done any public engagement outside of Earth Day or events at certain particular festivals?
So as a part of the Active Transportation Master Plan, we did extensive public engagement. And that was the intent of getting feedback on the network itself and the recommendations of the plan. So that was really the engagement. A lot of the pieces we're doing is communication. So people are aware of when a bicycle lane's, coming to their neighborhood, why we're doing it, just sort of reminders to them why we're doing it, the benefits of walking and cycling. And then it gives them, if there's local implications, if parking is no longer available or roadways are getting reduced or reallocated, we give them the heads up. And that's the intent of that communication piece.
So the public engagements were done 2018, the last term, okay? So we haven't done any since for any of these areas that get bike lanes?
Not specifically at the project level. Again, the idea is it's more of a communication piece, and we are getting feedback. We are getting feedback through those avenues. And
Trust me, I know.
And in the past, we've made, we're open to design changes, but for the most part, that the Active Transportation Master Plan is we're following the direction of, a city strategy.
One last question for you. Have we looked at connecting any of these bike lanes to existing pathways or trails that are already there?
So a lot of what we do right now is, taking advantage of construction opportunities. So it might not look like we're doing that in some of the projects, but for the most part, a lot of our infill projects are that we keep that in mind, whether it's making sure that, we prioritize cycling infrastructure where there is existing trails networks. There was, as a part of the ATMP, they did a geospatial analysis where they actually prioritized cycling infrastructure based on a number of, metrics like connectivity, population, employment, that sort of thing. So that's sort of guiding where we can, the infill program, where we implement bike lanes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Power. Councillor Santos.
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. There was one new piece of communication, I believe that is new, which is when we have new active transportation infrastructure within a community, we're putting door hangers on the doors now to let them know. I had to point that out because that is a new thing that staff pointed out that we started, I believe, last year, Nelson?
Correct, yes, through the chair, that was something, and it was actually in response to requests from
Correct.
committee and
Yeah.
council.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Santos. Councillor Santos, bring forward the report. Do you mind moving both the staff presentation and the active transportation master plan?
Would be my honor.
I knew it would be. All in favor? That carries. So those minutes will go to May the 1st, council. 7.3 was referred. 7.4 was referred. The information and presentation on Bill 185, I'm going to ask that go to Committee of Council this week, and you do a collaboration between yourselves and government relations. I think it's important for all members to hear that, including the mayor. The mayor's not on today, and nor should he be, but it will certainly be at Committee of Council, and if we're missing anybody, so we'd appreciate that. Everybody okay with that referred?
Sure.
All in favor? That carries. Our next item is the amendment to the OP Brampton official plan. We've had a request by a landowner to add an addition, which removes something from the OP essentially. We've had a request from another landowner to have that also removed, or a land tenant. So it's up on the board. I'm happy to move this. If we'd like, staff can speak to it if you wish. If not, I think it's self-explanatory, adding to the OP along the Mississauga Road corridor. That office research development facilities, lab space, aerospace, prestige industrial with no outside storage, including light and clean advanced manufacturing that emphasizes green infrastructure, assembly, innovation, technology, hotels, conference, convention centers, limited retail, service commercial uses that provide support to the permitted employment uses and opportunities for other employment uses that support and are complementary to the development of uses as noted above may be considered on a site basis whereby the overall intent of mixed use and office center designations are maintained. I've moved it. Any questions? The correspondence, item 11.7. All in favor? That carries. Thank you, everybody. Next, we have the correspondence 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, 11.4, 11.5, and 11.6 related to there was two related to the items on the public meeting on Highway 50, one related to Dixie Road, one related to the minister's zoning order that was delegated on Brampton Go Emerald Heights. All in favor for the receipt of receiving those correspondence? Sorry? Mover is Councillor Power. All in favor? That carries. Councillor question period. Are there any members of Planning Committee have any questions on anything related to the agenda today? Seeing none. Anybody online? Seeing none. Public question period. Any members of the public like to come and ask any questions that have anything to do with anything on the agenda today? State your name for the record, Sylvia.
Hello, my name is Sylvia Roberts. I'm a resident of Brampton, and so my question is, ATMP was discussed, and also connecting the bike lanes to parks and pathways. And my question is, in certain areas of the city, the pathways are getting extraordinarily busy. And what steps are we taking? Do we have plans in the ATMP so that in areas where there's very high traffic volumes, we are separating those out? Because someone going 30 kilometers an hour on a 50-pound e-bike, so kind of the weight of the person plus the e-bike, 200 pounds moving at 30 kilometers an hour can do a surprising amount of damage to someone. And so it's do we have plans to start separating those? Because even the TAC guidelines show that if you have mixed pedestrians and cyclists, it's only appropriate to have up to around 100 pedestrians and cyclists for a 10-foot wide path.
Commissioner Ganesh.
Yeah, through the chair, through to the delegate. I think it's a good thing that the trails are being used because it underscores that active transportation is on the rise in Brampton. If I could, I was just looking at the data. The latest data shows that active transportation has increased quite a bit in relation to our population, although we do have some more work to do. And through the previous presentation from Nelson, I think it clearly shows that we are looking at creating more bike lanes to minimize the conflict as pointed out by the delegate. So it's certainly something we'll keep an eye on.
Thank you.
Thank you. David? David Lang, Brampton resident. Please state your name for the record.
David Lang, Brampton resident. I actually have a question for Nelson. Whether the 11.9 million that was expressed for 2024 projects includes the 2.5 million that's part of the Conservative government's, Ontario government's proposal for revitalization of Loafers Lake.
Oh.
Do you know?
No,
No. Okay.
No, that
So
was.
that is additional.
Yes.
Fabulous. Thank you.
I had the exact same question.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. But we're going to incorporate stuff. It's going to look really amazing. I can't wait. Any other questions? Seeing none. It's been moved by Councillor Vincente that we now adjourn the meeting. Our next regular meeting is Monday, May 6, 2024, 7 p.m. or at the call of the chair. Have a wonderful evening, everybody.
Go, let's go.